Okay, good evening. Can you all hear me okay? I assume so. It's pretty loud. So honored, truly, sincerely, so honored to see all of you here. It's so fun to share these talks with you. I think this is now the 32nd or 34th HIPPO we've done going back to fall 2019. But just lovely. I'm not going to give the kind of formal introduction. Aaron Kasperitz will do that, which is amazing, which would be the highlight of the night, probably. So I'll have Aaron come up and kind of formally introduce this in a second. I just want to make a couple notes. So when I come back to the podium, I'm just going to kind of dive right in. If you've never attended a HIPPO lecture, it's called that because of our patron, St. Augustine of Hippo. It is a kind of free form, often more literature-based thing, in stark difference to the catechetical spirit in life, that kind of thing. Tonight's talk is prose poetry. So the HIPPO lecture usually goes about 45 minutes. The first 20, 25 minutes are going to be prose, normal fiction, and then it dives into poetry. It is an open homage. And a lot of you probably know this if you've come tonight from like Flock Note Notes or whatever. It's an open homage to Dante's Divine Comedy. My sincere hope, I swear, is that like you listening to this, you enjoy it, all that, but it inspires you to actually read this grand work by Dante, which I think is still so underknown in the Catholic world. And that's a great shame. A final note I'll make is in the poetry, I've tried to remain faithful to Dante's terza rima, which means the rhyming scheme, line A rhymes with A, B, B, but it's structured A, B, A, B, C, B, C, D, C, all the way through. So in these three cantos or chapters of poetry at the end, which you'll know, of course, when our main character falls asleep, it begins, and it'll just be obvious. It is perfectly faithful to the original Italian of Dante's terza rima style, just in English. Is it as good as Dante? Absolutely not, probably. But I mean, maybe it's better. I don't know. Without further ado, I want to say thank you sincerely to Erin. Please welcome her to the stage.
Welcome, everyone. Can y'all hear me? Okay, yeah. I'm gonna move this down a little bit. Okay, here we go. Welcome. Welcome to our first HIPPO lecture of the semester. As Groshen said, Bubba's Purgatorio tells the story of a West Texas priest and a former Texas Tech football player, Bubba Scruggs, who is on his way home from a mission trip in Nebraska and falls asleep by the side of the road and wakes up to find himself in a wholly different dimension. As with every timeless story, many adaptations of this story have been made of Dante's Divine Comedy in order to kind of clearly apply it to each age and generation in their particular culture and experiences. In middle school, I was challenged with the feat of, making an adaptation of Dante's Inferno. And I drew a drawing of a parking garage full of all different kinds of cars, including a 18-wheeler for the gluttonous people. But this analogy, this adaptation promises to be much more sophisticated than my parking garage drawing. But it starts with Mike Leach, the late beloved WSU football coach, as Father Bubba's guide, as Virgil was to Dante in the Divine Comedy. As Groshen also noted, the story changes stylistically from prose into poetry. While you will have to wait for parts 2 and 3 to kind of learn what happens and what becomes of atheists, Protestants, and just Catholics who struggle. Tonight, we invite you to dip your toes into the water of this 700-year-old Catholic story. As we enter into this story, which is in an updated form, this story is nonetheless very relevant to our time. And I hope you enjoy the full extent of it. Dr. Groshen is happy also at the end to field any questions that you might have. So please enjoy, sit back, relax, and here we go.
Every time Bubba Scruggs drives past Lake Meredith, he is taken back in time, the year now being 2076. So 2075, 2074, 2073, 2072, all the way back to 2043, the year he entered the world, this world, our world. Back to the summers of his youth. Age 12, finally mustering up the courage to jump off the 20-foot rock into the water. He did it neither for the intrinsic thrill nor to prove something to himself. Rather, Clayton Timms had called him a blank and swore he'd never even walk up there and look down. Emerging from the waters triumphant, Bubba sprinted over to Timms and punched him square in the jaw, and then jumped on him and punched him 2 more times in the ribs. 2 more times in the ribs. Timms, the larger boy, threw Bubba off him and punched him rapid fire style, 5 times, 5 times, 5 times, 5 times, 5 times in the head, before Bubba managed to land a knee shot straight into his stomach, his gut. By this time, the other boys who had been watching jumped in to break up the fight. Bubba and Timms, now separated by yards and other bodies, stared at each other. "I told you I'd do it," Bubba said. Timms nodded. Bubba had earned his respect. It was true and profound, the kind won by actions, not words. Timms never called him a blank again. They became lifelong friends that day. 2 years ago, when Father Bubba Scruggs said the funeral mass for Clayton Timms, the poor man had gone on an ill-fated solo expedition to Antarctica in the footsteps of Shackleton. That's what this idiot of happy memory had actually called it. Damn fool. May God rest his soul. He started with this story as a lead-in to a biblical reflection on Matthew 11:12. From the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven suffers violence, and the violent are taking it by force. Violence, Father Scruggs explained, is a necessary and purifying facet of our life as pilgrims in this valley of tears. But we forget the multiple definitions of the word. Certainly, as our blessed Lord commands, we must be ever ready to turn the other cheek. We must become meek so as to inherit the earth. We must become obedient even to death on our personal, providentially fashioned cross. We can never, in anger or with calculation, do senseless physical violence to others. He who lives by the sword shall die by the sword. We must do spiritual violence to ourselves. Do you fast in Lent? From meat on Fridays, keep the hour fast before Mass? Do you get out of bed on the initial alarm to give God his due first thing in the morning? Do you start and finish the day in prayer, chanting those Compline psalms in steady rhythm as the orange sun melts into the horizon and the sky turns purple then black? I'm telling you, you haven't lived until you've done that. Do violence to your will. Kill your will with steady blows, merciless, repetitious hits again and again throughout the day. Prefer your spouse, your children, and the Lord to yourself. Learn to practice such violence and you will be saved. For no man can enter God's kingdom and share the fruits of his glorious resurrection if not first picking up his own cross. No Good Friday, no Easter Sunday. Yes, a good and holy violence is of a salutary quality. The land here around Lake Meredith bears silent testimony to salutary violence. Father Scruggs' hometown of Fritch, the same town where he is now the pastor at St. Pier Giorgio Frassati Church, this whole small dot in the vastness of the West Texas Panhandle bears testament to what comes forth from hardness and scarcity and paucity and want. The land is hard, but the people are harder. Shooting stuff, targets, and clay pigeons is why Father Bubba Scruggs is in a car, passenger side, 2 people in the back driving out by and past Lake Meredith. Shoot guns, then get breakfast. It's a monthly tradition. The driver, a local businessman, not a member of Father Scruggs' congregation, not a Catholic, but a friend, is taking the 4 out to his ranch to shoot a whole bunch of guns. He picked them up, his friends, this group, not more guns, in town after the 6 a.m. Mass. He attended, sitting in the back, reading his Bible as he always does. Today's feature is a recently purchased collection of refurbished World War I rifles. One was used by a German during the Battle of Verdun. He was killed, and the gun was retrieved by a French infantryman who gifted it to an AEF soldier sometime during the August 1918 100 Days Offensive. 2 months ago, Father Scruggs fired a bazooka on this guy's ranch. It's Texas. Bubba studied, but more so played football at Texas Tech University in Lubbock. He had been an all-state wide receiver in high school. And in Texas, that's like being a bronze medal Olympian or winning the World Cup. During his university years, the non-football parts spent on partying, chasing women, trying to go to parties so as to meet women, talking to women so as to be invited to parties where he hoped to meet more women. Bubba's sole connection to good violence were Tech football practices in general and his position coach, Lenny Lighter Wilson in particular. Wilson earned his nickname during his playing days when at the conclusion of the NFL preseason, he set himself on fire to prove how tough he was. Not whole hog. You have to live to tell the tale. That's really the entire point. But placing the open flame on his hindquarters and holding it there without flinching started getting pretty impressive. Once it got past 30 seconds and then on to a minute plus, and everyone was cheering him on and hooting and hollering and the like, it became quite the game. The egging on, the daring and calling out, trying to get Wilson to light that lighter every now and then after that. Lighter washed out of the NFL after 2 practice squad seasons, 6 arrests, all of them small-time infractions, but tell that to the PR people and the attorneys from Flatbush. No regular season catches, 5 broken bones, the unofficial record for showing up late plus drunk to the team facility, the also unofficial title as the best freestyle rapper on the team, which, weirdly or not, was a main reason why the team, the New York Jets, kept him on despite everything, with the then head coach a true fan, often asking him to rap a bit after practice if it had been a good practice, and shenanigans such as this could be justified. 7 minutes and 17 seconds of NFL playing time, all on special teams, 2 tackles, nothing else. But the wonder and awe of being good in college got him there. Freestyle rapping and lighting his butt on fire kept him there. The league. Tech was happy to have him back. He'd show up hungover, but then post a top 3 broad jump mark in team testing. He spent last night in a jail cell. Today, he's setting the pace in speed work. Bubba Scruggs learned old school in your face, grind down to the nub, now a fine powder, can't call it anything but one thing, see, hard work, from Lighter. And it was then, at that time, the sole connection he had to good violence, to self-denial, to pushing through for something greater than yourself. Tragically, 2 years ago, Lenny Wilson died in a still mixed up, the facts, the narrative, story involving 3 prostitutes, more than a few bags of cocaine, multiple guns, a motel room, that particular motel room part of an establishment, the full definition of a seedy motel, the motel in a bad part of Oklahoma City, the time past midnight, a most horrible night. Bubba mourned his former coach for weeks after hearing the news. He always believed Wilson was, beneath it all, a good man. Behold here a dictionary definition of bad violence. While at Tech, raised Baptist, but currently professing nothing, Bubba ran into a young woman named Danielle one day on campus, and man, was she beautiful. So he actually stopped to listen, intently even to what she, for whatever reason, proceeded to tell him right off the bat. She invited him to come to the Catholic Center in 2 days for something called a dogmatic dinner. What? He asked. She explained that a bunch of Tech Catholic kids came and did something called fellowship, which she said was approximately hanging out, but with ostensible religious undertones. And at some point, someone, an invited speaker, gave a talk on some facet of Catholic theology, and all the while there was a dinner, dessert too, but hey, you should really come, she said, now halfway out the door. I gotta go, bye. Bubba showed up at the dogmatic dinner hoping to see Danielle. He had practiced his second meeting pickup line many times the previous evening and was confident in what he'd say to her. But she wasn't there. Bubba opened door after door at Raider Catholic, searching without success for Danielle. No success, and so he came back to where he had began. Most Raider Catholics were milling about in the main room. He started asking people about Danielle. Who? Danielle. She's Danielle, you know, this girl. But nobody knew anybody named Danielle. She invited me here, he protested, as if pleading, as if he was sure they were hiding something from him. Sorry, that was the general consensus. There is no Danielle here, and we're a pretty tight-knit group. We'd know Danielle if Danielle was even a sporadic attendee. There's no Danielle. But transitioning from attentive, perhaps anxious care to generous smiles, we're super, super glad you're here. Why don't you have a seat? You're new, aren't you? Well, you'll have to introduce. Bubba had already staggered back out of the main room. He was certainly not now, not like this, going to stay for some theological talk. He was here for Danielle. And then, as he headed to the door to leave, he spotted a book nestled in the side of some cushion in some seat, and he picked it up and read the title aloud. The Desert Fathers, Sayings of the Early Christian Monks. Then he started reading. He read the entire book, all 201 pages, and it took him much of the night to do so. For he had arrived to meet Danielle at around 7 p.m., and when he put down the book, it was 3:16 in the morning, and what might have been most remarkable of all was that no one had bothered him, and they must have just all left and locked up, and at that point, the exhaustion kicked in and he fell asleep. Bubba entered the Catholic Church the Easter after the dogmatic dinner. It had been 6 months. Then he was confirmed. He took the saint name Poman. Behold, Reginald Bubba Crow Poman Scruggs. He had always gone by Bubba. Otherwise, he'd be Reginald Crow Scruggs V, and the fifth really is taking it too far. He had become a new man, a Catholic at last. He knelt down, 2 knees pressed firm on the newly installed communion rail at Raider Catholic to receive his blessed Lord on the tongue for the first time. The good violence of suffering and expiation of sins, constant purgation, the daily cross carrying, all to one day be worthy to bask in that ineffable light, was sure to come. On this day, it was pure bliss, nothing besides. Deo gratias. He repeated over and again the sounds of his heart. He could not think or speak of anything else. Not long after that, Bubba quit the football team and dropped out of school. And so, in some kind of modern amalgamation of Henry David Thoreau and his desert heroes, he set off for the most remote place he could find, Egypt, where those men had dwelled and had come into perfection by his grace, was out of the question. Bubba chose Idaho. Out of Texas called, so he believed. He drove north until he arrived in Boise, and then left Boise north once more on Highway 55, headed towards a small town called Horseshoe Bend. Winding roads, frothing rapids below, and sand-colored hills soon gave way to thick, dark green forests, high green trees dusted with white on top, even in June, marking the way as far as McCall. He stopped sooner, somewhere between Cascade and Donnelly. Having there turned east, now really onto some dirt roads and more dark green cover overhead, he walked, having abandoned his car by the side of the road with the keys on the passenger seat and a sign marked "Free" taped to the dash. Here was to be his hermitage, his monastic cell. Bubba spent 3 years by Warm Lake, coming into Cascade on foot solely to attend Sunday Mass and get groceries. Otherwise, one could say he lived, and failing that, valiantly tried to live the biblical injunction to pray without ceasing. He did the Liturgy of the Hours daily, and on Fridays, the Stations of the Cross. He prayed the Litany of Loretto, the Litany of St. Joseph, and the devotion to Our Lady's 7 Sorrows on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Otherwise, he did nothing or tried to do nothing besides praying rosaries and Divine Mercy chaplets. The mathematics lend to understanding. His goal, and he met this mark every day without fail, was to play 4 complete sets of the rosary daily, 4 times all 4 sets of mysteries. Or if habitually Catholics count 5 decades daily, 1 mystery set as, quote, 1 rosary, then here 16 rosaries. And in addition to these, 20 Divine Mercy chaplets. With the entire 3 o'clock hour, nothing but the Divine Mercy chaplet on repeat. Best done to really grease both ends of the pan from 2:59 p.m. until 4:01 p.m. 16 rosaries and 20 chaplets is 5,840 rosaries and 7,300 chaplets in 1 year. Times 3, the total swells to 17,520 / 21,900. Combining these two, 39,420, and then multiplying by 5, for such are the total number of decades in each devotion. Catholics learn to count as such. For your penance, say a decade of the rosary. Bubba Scruggs should have left Warm Lake having prayed 197,100 decades of the Rosary and Divine Mercy Chaplet. Instead, the total numbers he left with were 31,210 / 40,426, 358,180 combined decades, meaning in a final balancing of the books, he prayed Hail Mary, full of grace, and for the sake of his sorrowful passion, a combined 3,581,800 times in 3 years. He offered this work to God back at Mass in Cascade the final day of his 3rd year. God provided the means out of the wilderness. No locusts or wild honey, but he had been well provided for, and soon he was back in Texas, 24 years old, but wise by the infused grace of a constant striving far away from the world's temptations and distractions. He finished his degree at Texas Tech. He applied for the seminary and was accepted, and in what to him seemed like a blur, was ordained a priest and assigned to St. Pierre Giorgio Frassati in Fritch, Texas, in the Diocese of Amarillo. That's where he is now, as far as ecclesiastical postings go. But today now, he is physically in Nebraska, and it's late at night, and he has just given a retreat talk right there on the Cornhusker campus, the Catholic Student Center. And boy, it went great. It was well attended. The people were nice. Nebraskans are, to the man, to the woman, the old man, bro, wait, what? You're 103 for real? Teach me about stuff. Teach me about life, bro. To the child, everybody, unfailingly nice. Father Scruggs grabbed 2 to-go cups of coffee and hugged a bunch of people and headed on home, driving south-southwest. Somewhere in rural Kansas, between 2 and 3 in the morning, he started to feel his eyes get heavy. He drove on. No, stop and pull over. Here, look, just for a minute. Okay, he resolved. Having pulled over to the side of the road not being a highway, but some kind of U.S. state road country connector. And he had checked. After cutting the ignition for a nearby hotel, motel, something, and there was one, just 15 minutes ahead. He turned the car on one more time to quickly turn on the lights just to make sure he was okay parking here. And yes, how glorious. He had not noticed it so clearly before as he did just right now. He was, yes, it was him, me. Here I am, under the pitch black sky, a half moon above, its light barely breaking down through the clouds, black, darkness everywhere. But a darkness tied to a stillness, a calmness, a peace. He rolled down the window and smelled the night air, and it smelled like heaven. It smelled like Iowa baseball games in late May, after which Sally Pennington has everyone over to the farm for pie and coffee and rhubarb scones. Lots of laughter, too. It smelled like the evaporation of rain after a summer storm on these Great Plains. It smelled like the sound of a bases clearing double one-hopping the wall in left center field. Oh, it smelled good. Yes, just 5 minutes. 10-minute nap, tops. Then back to it, back on home in no time. Bubba shut off the car again, smiled, and fell asleep quickly, thinking of one word. He could not dislodge from his even then slowly slipping into sleep mind the word when. When I finish this nap, when I get up, when I get going again, soon. When? Canto 1, Introduction. When I turned the car off, I soon awoke. Certain I had been asleep but a minute thin, out of the mist he spoke. Hello, Reginald. Are you ready this journey to begin? Palms out and open, posing as if preening, presenting a full-toothed grin. What? I replied, rubbing my eyes. I'm dreaming, am I not? A dream, a nightmare, not another. Who are you? I said to him, his face still beaming. Call me Virgil, ghost of Yuletide present or past, Beatrice's brother. Yet know that like the Baptist, I but prepare the way for those with eyes to see. See, a lowly gridiron general was I in a life now other, unworthy to loose the thongs of anyone's sandals. WSU I helmed, but to my dismay, I never did lead the Idaho Vandals. You were a football coach, I said, my eyes now clear, staring in stupefaction at his frame large and imposing, but jolly, mirth radiating beyond reproach. Yes, he laughed, in confirmation. But it was not so much X's and O's that made my hardly light reputation. I was quotable to their and my great delight. Often after games, I, the pirate, offered advice for those planning nuptials and the hearty hail wedding night. As soon as the season is over, go elope. Trust me, go elope. Because basically every female is going to terrorize you till it's over. Once over, it'll be over, and then you'll cruise along, hun, to happy marriage, a happy life, I told her, truly speaking to all men seeking a smooth sail. I hope there's Bigfoot, I said once. It would be fun if there's Bigfoot, but my guess would be there's not. I concluded, to laughter, too many a frown undone. If you get into a fight, I counseled, as if of soothsayers, don't take your helmet off. We're looking for smart, not double dumb ass-jack football players. First, take her to CD's Pit House BBQ in Moscow, young man. Don't look back. If she will get her hands dirty with some great BBQ, you will know, be mine, you are on the right track. I don't get atheists that believe in ghosts. Wait, you want to be agnostic atheist? Fine. But you don't get to bring ghosts along with you. What joy I have gained now beholding this truth with the passage of time in the realm where time passes not. Reginald, he said once more, calling me by my proper name, my identity. Have you got? I cannot believe it to be so, yet here you are. And if me you were sent to teach, neither by heaven's footstool nor a single hair on my head do I swear. Instead, I declare it's true. You are Mike Leach. Very good, good father, he said. Before we begin, know this as a clear sky is blue. I am sent by God, for God has big plans for you. Yes, for you. I come to confirm your faith through and through. All that Holy Mother Church proposes for our belief, though our understanding suffers drought, is true. I learned this very late in life, in my last posted in the deep south. As I lay dying on the floor, a simple prayer to me came hither, a thought, one thought. Soon it exited my mouth. Lord Jesus Christ, my God, forgive this sinner. Lead me, Lord, to the banquet hall of that eternal slake, that divine dinner. Born into beehive's bosom of the stock salt lake, I knew not, my Lord, my God, holy doctrine, or how to discern prophets of the true light from those of the fallen one who once bore it, the real from the fake. But God is love, Father Scruggs. St. John was right. How I stood melting, waiting in the fire, the Sacred Heart's sea of love, endlessly churning on the shores, frothy waves funneling, crashing love, pure might. A fire of compassion, blood and water together from his pierced side. I love you, my son, said he. Taking me in his arms, he showed me all my sins and that he had died for them, died for me. This was my particular judgment, the only test I had passed. But before I could enter heaven, I had to undergo a strict fast. God has sent me to take you through purgatory, the holding place of which most remain unaware. I have climbed and suffered here for 54 years. Let me show you my tracks and how the guilt breaks. For one day the Lord will call you to Peter's own chair. My head is spinning, this, all of it. I cannot believe, is this fake? Stop tormenting me, wretched nightmares. When do I from this malice wake? You have already woken, he said. Do not fret, you will be found wanting in the balance. Only read the 25th chapter of St. Matthew and tremble. God's wrath is reserved for those who waste talents. If God calls you to Rome, he does, and he will remember. He will provide the necessary skills. Be assured it is he alone who will render to you what you need. So look and behold, it has already begun. To you he sent me, a jolly fat football coach who once on a dog's face took, I say with blushing hesitation, a pee. My schoolmarm aunts, Mike, oh gee, me thinking, no, I am the OG. Read my book, it's there. A clown I was, perhaps, by the world's estimation, but his transgressions washed white by the blood of the Lamb, by I am, who is he, a former sinner soon resting in sublime salvation. And you listen here, he said, pointing at me. 54 years, I yearn to quit this station and fly free. So if you cannot from curiosity or obedience muster the motivation, do it for me, a former football coach long detained. Once our journey is completed, I'll be allowed the levitation to the heavenly realm, our true home, the goal foreordained. Before, oh Felix culpa, so many years, Adam and Eve's 2 bites forever stained. And us, the human race, poor us, sorrowful we, abandoned to our vices and fears, in the cesspools of sin through which we tread step by step as if through muck, our faults sticking to the boots of our souls like mud in this valley of tears. This valley of tears, he said, for the first time sad, this valley of tears, tu autem domine miserere nobis. Okay, I said, but I want to make clear, to know, to be sure, I need to know what's at stake. You take me through purgatory, I learn what God means me to, then you go to heaven, yes? He smiled once more, he nodded, he motioned with his hand. Together we jumped into the lake, blue and deep and cold. Canto 2, through the water onto the beach. Down and down we went, Leach faster than me, the water lighter in weight and in color the deeper we traveled. How can it be that here we are thousands of feet steeper than ears and common sense, each pressurized to a breaking point, should be able to handle? If you know, speak, speaker, and tell me who seeing this will not see a whole world out of joint. Traveling at breakneck speeds, deeper and deeper, we carried on faster still, faster, faster, until how? Somehow airborne, now up in the sky. The sheer fear did not disappoint. The moment we reached a velocity beyond which I felt I would cease to be whole, we froze. Hanging motionless but a second, We plummeted down from this equally blue and light sky, landing roughly onto a sandy beach, craggy rocks round and lapping them up onto them a churning sea. We've arrived, Leach said. Here's the deal. Purgatory's levels are now revealed. We'll soon take a walk down the beach to a small grotto. Inscribed on that arch is Purgatory's motto. Then, aping pride, will take flight our demarche. Like Daedalus and his son towards the sun will stretch like a larch. Obliterated, as we must be, it is the one way to enter level 1, the volcano, where God's wrath burns away the sins of non-believers, the lukewarm, bad Catholics, and all others far from done, paying the price for their transgressions. Behold the math. In these lowest levels, many are detained for years numbering 3 figures or more, for such is the debt owed to God's justice by those who for so long kept from the narrow path. Here you will find, from worst on up, those aforementioned in the lines -4 once more, non-believers, the lukewarm, and on down to the invincibly ignorant, who now willingly purge from themselves the sins God abhors. Then level 2, B, a desert devoid of all resplendent, those who sinned against love of neighbor, their fellow man. For as level 1A is crimes versus God, here in the desert, Philadelphic missteps make these exiles lament. Here are betrayers of family, murderers, adulterers, thieves, and liars from every clan, those who disdained their brothers, those who strayed from God's plan. But before I continue, undo your feelings frozen numb. All these sought and found repentance. One day their punishment will be done. Onwards, like me to heaven, they'll fly, purged of all arrogance. Onwards, like me to heaven, to claim their eternal inheritance. Because while here the sins are the same as below, know well, forgiveness attained is the great difference between purgatory and hell. For many, the sins just as grave, the punishment equal, it would seem. The punishment's unrelenting until justice has been met, the sight alone making one squeam-ish. One would not wish any such things on a worst enemy, better an out-of-water maimed fish writhing on the dock in pain. And so no, before I pass on an explanation that all in this realm, unlike below, are forgiven, are saved, this is a fact plain. The law and the prophets, the golden rule, the Decalogue in summation, was and is the barometer for assignments to levels 1 and 2, all diverse in duration. Out of the low desert of suffering to the high desert of holding, we accelerate. See the speedometer of spiritual progress revving to a break. 2 stations here lie high before we can leave this Guantanamo. First, all those who did the deadly sins only in thought. They did not take action. See adultery of the heart. See just imagining impaling him with the sawed-off fragments of a broken rake. Then the final step, before we are free of level B, for that's it, good Father, A, the volcano, B, the desert barren, then the rain, the soaking rain plain sea. The final step, something like Antony's own cell, a clarion call to a final austere penance before progress. How it smarts, how it's fastened to the final twist. Now they see how sin's claws can scar them. Level C, the rain, God's own tears straight from the Sacred Heart. All those who wasted talents, these sinners regret a taste most tart, most bitter. Wasters, religious, familial, political, lesser authority, and talents, innovative and artistic. Oh, how they had littered. But now, see, it takes not a mystic to see how their sins are soaked away day after day by a sorrow holistic. And then what, you ask? Then what, level D? Yes. How many times would you like me to say level D? For it is another way it cannot be. For after A, B, and C comes D. And level D, where it's far and away the most pleasant of detentions. The closest you'll come here to what used to be. We hope you enjoy your stay. Come again. Y'all come back now. Y'all been paying attention? Level D is for those fully cleaned, but who must yet wait for their formal invitation to heaven, to paradise. Just wait and you'll see it's actually quite normal. Well-scrubbed souls lying around for the first time, feeling true joy, having passed through all the necessary trouble. But on the off chance that you're still too thick, too slow, or less man and still stupid boy, here, Leach said, handing me a sheet upon which was written everything he had just said. The levels, the poor souls there detained, those whom the enemy had tried but failed to destroy. I read it once, I read it twice. I tried to imprint it in quick memorization upon my heart and head. And then Leach called to me, waving his hand, follow, and me down the beach he led. Canto 3, Purgatory's motto and the Icarus pledge. We walked for miles down the beach, stopping at a small grotto. On its archway written, stenciled on the gray stone in blue, Purgatory's motto. Now I rejoice in what I am suffering for you, and I fill up in my flesh what is still lacking in regard to Christ's afflictions, for the sake of his body, which is the church. This, Leach said, shaking his finger, is true, the whole truth of which is completely seen when we walk through the metaphorical door, stepping inside, beginning our journey in the volcano, in the space where reality outshines all the lore, all the oft-thought tall tales seen now from within. And what awe, what overpowering awe, what prejudices fade when reality is first grasped from the heat on one's skin. Even shorn of skin, we, here now ghosts, wraiths, and shades, receive solely in the soul thrice what we once conjoined unity let from our understanding pass, and if grasped, let fade. Colossians 1:24, said Leach. From one verse, how much to learn, plus more, what treasures to teach. Are you ready to see? He asked me. Are you ready to bask, but momentarily, in pride's own aerial grunge? If yes, then I have a singular task for you. It's something we must do, the one entry point towards which all here first lunge. They take flight, up, up, up towards the sun until they melt, then the fall. Icarus's plunge. I smiled. So souls entering purgatory do this one and all? They do this, wait, why? Why a movement so random yet simultaneously tall? Random, Leach said, hardly so. Amen, I say to you, by and by. Poor sinful souls, although saved, must enter with a full knowledge of their true fallen nature. Every sin's foundation is pride, and so they take to the sky. Imitating the hubris of the one, how can I apply this through the nomenclature? Leach asked, imitating the ridiculous one who thought he could on wings of wax and feathers soar, go, fly, but down he came. And down they come too, now feeling the tightness of sin's cincture as they crash at rapid speed. Oh my. Faced first. It's brutal, amigo. Escucha mi, verdaderamente no es bueno. Face first. You will experience it soon, I do not lie. For words cannot name the proper pain. Oh, as souls enter down to the bottom, then bottom on up through the volcano. Leach nodded, I nodded, he gestured, and I came fast. We affixed the wings and took flight, climbing past. Nothing. Up and up in a clear blue sky, then down with horrifying speed. Our purgatorial journey begun at long last. Thank you. Per usual, I will take questions as long as you guys want to ask questions. So the floor is all yours.
Why did you choose Purgatorio instead of one of the other levels, or instead of like Paradise Lost?
Totally, yeah. So for people like watching online and stuff, the question was, why did I choose Purgatorio, not heaven or hell? I love that prayer. Our Lady of Fatima, oh my Jesus, forgive us our sins, save us from the fires of hell, lead all souls to heaven, like to hope for the salvation of all. At the same time, like we know souls go to hell, right? It's doctrine of the church. Okay, so balancing those two, I take Pope Benedict talked a lot about this in Spe Salvi, his letter from 2007. And the kind of rational question, or the kind of hopeful question of like, how many do we know that are so good they're ready for heaven right away? You know, nothing unclean can enter heaven. I don't know anyone like that. But how many people do you know, like C.S. Lewis said, you know, closing the door from within, should go straight to hell, have nothing left. They don't have 1 ounce of repentance. So my story is hopeful, like in the, what I'm going to read even over 3 months is a pale abstract of a much, much longer story. I'll end up probably reading like 9 poetry chapters, 9 cantos. There's like 40 in the whole story. But I have like really, really bad guys, horrible guys who and Leach is the guy throughout. We'll say this guy, this same guy is burning in hell, in the worst part of hell. The only difference is this guy repented. So there's that hopeful note, I think, that you can like, here I'm going to put all the guys in hell like Dante did, look all these bad guys, with the caveat in line with Catholic theology, but they repented. If they repent, God will not refuse anyone. But like the punishments are brutal. Like that'll come in like October, November of like, so I picked that. I think it's more like artistically available. Like hell is so depressing and sad. You know, God save us from hell. And, you know, that's not to like blanch at that reality. Of course, you have the four last things on our mind, but to put someone in hell, like then too, like I have Richard Dawkins in the atheist thing. And like he gets like destroyed, but he's saved. So it's like happy Richard Dawkins. If the off chance Richard Dawkins ever read the story, gosh, that could be cool, right? Like if he's on the road to conversion and reads this, oh, this Catholic guy put me in purgatory. Okay, maybe I can repent. If I just put him like in hell, he's an atheist, kind of like, right? And it's like, what's the point? It's like, great, well, who cares? There's more kind of like artistic license with purgatory. In heaven, like I feel like St. Paul, eye is not seen, ear is not heard. In the last canto, which I don't even know if I'll read, maybe I will come November, Leach ascends to heaven and he just repeats again and again, eye is not seen, ear is not heard. I will not touch describing heaven. I'm unworthy. I can't believe Dante had the gall to do that, you know, to describe heaven. So it's like, that's almost not fun because what am I going to do? Like, hey guys, like this is heaven. You're like, that seems lame. You know, like only God can make it cool. You can do purgatory though. So it's the one that has the most freedom to like write about stuff.
What was the inspiration behind the choice of Mike Leach?
I pray for Mike Leach's soul every single day, as we all should pray for all the souls in purgatory, the forgotten souls. I'm just a massively incurable football fan. I really, really love football a lot. Like I had a conversation in class the other day, in history class, 10 minutes about Deion Sanders in Colorado football. And I loved it. I initiated it. So like I love football. And Mike Leach, this is the second time here is in the form of poetry, but those quotes from Mike Leach are real quotes. Like if anyone was laughing, like give Mike Leach the credit, not me. Like he actually said that kind of stuff. Like take her to CD's Pit House, barbecue, whatever, because he was a WSU coach here from 2012 to 19. So like a long story short, I like football, so I'm aware of like football personalities. Mike Leach was regaled when he was alive. He died less than a year ago, like last December. But he was regaled as this kind of like philosopher, interesting guy. He really was, very bright guy. And so in a previous HIPPO lecture, I forget what it was, I just like gave Mike Leach quotes in prose form and it was hilarious. Everyone kind of loved it. And so I thought like, okay, here's a guy who I love. Like Dante loved Virgil. I love Mike Leach. Mike Leach was very philosophical. His interviews were great. He actually had the advice that he gave. You ever look up Mike Leach quotes, like, oh, it's so goofy. It's really actually like, that's pretty accurate. Like, you're right. If you want to be an atheist, you can't believe in ghosts. That's true. That's like really good theology. You know, like he's really good. I did a whole class on Mike Leach's kind of like philosophy. So I respect his intellect, dead serious. And in fact, I find like humor in intellect is the highest type of intellect. He was very good at that. So I love him personally, and he's already dead. So I didn't want to like, to Grace's earlier question about heaven, hell, I don't want to like make a guy who's still alive and have him like dead in my story. It's like he's already dead. So all those kind of factors.
How long did it take you?
The question is, how long did it take me to write it? It's still in process right now. Like I have in the prose part, which I read, these HIPPO lectures are always kind of reduced things of a total work, but the prose part is about 50 pages and the poetry is like 60 or 70. I had over this summer just read the entire Divine Comedy. I was so inspired. And I'm thinking about like, what is my next project? Like, I think I love this job so much for the ministerial aspect of like the catechetical spirit in life and the classes we do. And I'm a professor, it's my job, but I think I consider myself a writer above all things. And so I'm always looking for a new project. And like I've said many, many times, like this massive novel that I read excerpts of before is supposed to come out this year at some time. These Brazilian designer guys are taking forever. And it's a 1,000-page book, but it's like, okay. But like that's been done for a while. And then I recently found out, thank God, just this month, 20 days ago, the HIPPO Lectures book is accepted for publication. That should be out either next year or 2025. And so my impetus was like, I'm done with that stuff's in process, like with the editorial team, the press, whatever, the editors, what's my new thing? And it was a perfect storm of having read Divine Comedy. I'm like, I'm going to try to do this. It'd be really fun. And no sarcasm aside, like if you like that, that's great. Like Dante is so much better. It's amazing. Like everyone should read the Divine Comedy. It's better in every way, theologically, stylistically. How long did it take me? I think I started writing like June. I would write it every single day. I could maybe write like a canto every 4 days a week. I don't know. It took me like 2-3 months to get some good stuff down. And it's still in a very, very rough state. I'd say this book, which I eventually want to have it be a total book, is still 60% from being done in maybe next 2 years. So it's like a slow process. But this is really fun because it forces me to refine it to be good on camera, like for everyone here, like, to clean out typos, whatever. So the initial writing of the chapters, even just the 3 chapters, maybe that takes 3 weeks only, but then kind of like cleaning it up takes more, month and a half.
That timeline, are you planning on having this one published as well?
Yeah. Yes. The question is like, would I have it published? Totally. Oh, 100%. I think like being a writer is like trying to become an actor or whatever. And this is very true. I think it's like, until you make it big, you're a complete joke, right? Oh, you're a writer. Oh, okay. But then you become a writer, people are too obsessed, kind of stuff. It's like, like the actor is the best analogy, right? I'm going to go to Hollywood and, try to become an actor. Okay, bro. Okay, dude. And then you become like Brad Pitt. And then everyone's like, it's too much. Like the hysteria around Taylor Swift, like whatever you think about it, it's like, gosh, she's a singer, like calm down, it's like, but I'm sure Taylor Swift, when she just was doing her guitar, when she was in high school, was like, oh, she's weird, like she writes music. Okay. So I think as a writer, it's a similar trap you can fall into of like, it's like feast or famine, and people either know you or not. I look at it as like being a plumber. Like I'm trying to get everything published. It's a blue collar. Like I write stuff and try to get it published. Been very grateful, thank God, to have a lot of like individual stories and stuff published. And it's like, who reads them? At times it's a very kind of select circle of people. Like often if I get I have a story coming out with this journal in New Jersey. So all the people on that mailing list will read it. No one else cares, right? And it's fine. But to me, it's not. I think with all kind of artistic endeavors, you fall in this trap. Unless I'm some like famous person, it's not worth doing, or vice versa. I look at it like literally like I'm gonna rewire a house. And a guy who gets his 8,000 hours to be an electrician, like of course he's gonna go wire houses. Like I'm always gonna write, try to publish stuff. So my goal is, like God willing, these Brazilian guys will get in gear. And I say that with like, I'm serious. My editor and myself, it's a press in Toronto, had this 1,000-page novel, which is to date the best thing I've ever written, that I'm most like proud of, already done in February. I signed the contract for it in November 2021, almost 3 years now. And him and I had it done in February. These guys are just like, oh, whatever. It's like dragging their freaking feet. And like, oh, we're editing this high-level European journal. It's like, why? I don't care about that. Like, get my book done. But so it's like to your question, like, okay, it'd be awesome to build momentum. Like the novel comes out, hopefully people like it, even if it's in a very small kind of circle of like Catholic, whatever. And then the HIPPO lectures, I'm so pumped about because it's the fruit of all of our stuff here. The HIPPO lectures book is literally a compilation of essays, 24 HIPPO lectures given from 2019 to like last spring. That's gonna be sweet. And so, like my goal eventually would be, if those do well, then have this be the next book and always produce stuff, and like, do I have like delusions of grandeur? I want to be considered the best Catholic writer. Absolutely. I think I'm dead serious. I will freely admit that. I will freely admit like there's the rational aspect of like, I'm a complete nobody right now. I am so grateful and thankful for like publications. I have the greatest job in the world here in WSU UVI. I don't have the on the ground delusions of like, I'm not even like on a 0 to 100, I'm 0. Like I'm completely unknown. What I'm saying is, do I want to be like, he's the greatest writer of this century? Yeah, 100%. Like Ernest Hemingway was like, declare yourself the best writer. Like, I want to go on a show like Matt Fradd and then be all like, oh gosh, we didn't know about your work, but it's so good. And I'd be like, shame on you. You should have known about it. And like, be like, super, like have this kind of like arrogant fake persona, like totally. So like the goal is always to publish and then be like, why didn't you read it last week? Why did it take you so long?
So you quoted it made me think of the Flannery O'Connor book. I think it's
Yeah, the violent bear it away.
It's scripture, because I've always been like that.
Yeah. So this is not a sarcastic response. No, I'm not theologically astute enough to do that. But you're exactly right. Flannery O'Connor, who's unbelievable. I mean, like, it's too bad how many people knee-jerk say I love Flannery O'Connor, and they just put them on the spot next time. What did she write? I don't know, right? But Flannery O'Connor, really is fantastic and amazing. And although she's known for short stories, one of her 2 novels was called The Violent Bear It Away. And it's based on this, and that was a direct inspiration, actually, of like, I'm like, it was good enough for her, I'll do it too. I'll base a story on Matthew 11:12. No, I can't answer to you directly what it means. I defer to people of much greater theological minds than mine. I've always taken it as that kind of good violence. That's my interpretation. Maybe I'm just being a Protestant here. Like, what's what it means to me, and who cares, right? But I've always, had it be like, to be a Catholic, like our Lord says, don't be lukewarm. Is to be on fire. It's a type of violence, type of like activity. Like we had a question last week during the AMA about the Crusades, and like to be on the march for Christ. Like those people bear away the kingdom. Like they go to war. The mendicant friars, like Francis. Oh, he's just a guy who just like is begging in a robe, right? No, he's like a soldier. Like he's going out there like living the imitation of Christ. It's like a violent act. Saint Ignatius of Loyola is probably a better example. He literally was a soldier and organized the Jesuits along like military lines. So I've always taken it that way. Of like, it means like doing violence for Christ, spiritual holy violence. Because we know, as St. Paul says, we fight principalities and powers. The other side is being violent. We have to be more violent. And Matthew 16, 19, it was so good the first time it clicked in my mind. You know, the gates of hell should not prevail. We always take it as we're chilling here and hell is attacking us. No, gates are defensive stuff. They will not withstand our violent attacking of them. So it's like, I've always taken it that way. That's what I want to do with my books. I want to do spiritual violence with my books. I want people to read my books and like, I can't be Protestant anymore. This is unacceptable. You know, that kind of stuff. Like I want to be on fire, like actually doing kind of positive stuff for the kingdom of God. But I'm, without any kind of joke, that might be a completely wrong interpretation. That's how I've always taken it. And that's how it's presented in the story. But is that correct? You know, maybe not.
When you were laying out Father Scruggs and his sort of virtuoso going to warm lake and doing all these prayers, it seemed like he caught it immediately. So when in contrast to Mike Leach, who's relatively older character, I thought, okay, well, this is kind of the dichotomy, like you're saying. Mike Leach is going to carry on multiple characters through Purgatory. Is there a reason that you chose sort of this seemingly pure-hearted character first in the series?
So, okay, so you're calling Father Scruggs pure-hearted, you're saying, just to understand your question.
Right.
Okay, and I would totally contest to you, like, in the unedited version, Father Scruggs' past is very, very vulgar and awful. Like, he's pure-hearted after his repentance. But, and this is again, like Flannery O'Connor. Flannery O'Connor was the grimiest writer ever. Like, and it's like this sweet woman from Georgia, she can do it. I'm going to do it too. And I've said before in the past, I read a story last year in January called Margot Himmel, which some people were like, oh, that was explicit. I toned it down like a lot and it was still explicit. This one I really toned down and just like mentioned, oh, you know, he's in college and he was interested in women. He's not pure-hearted. He's a terrible guy. Like, like a long story short, in the real book, it explains like he hooked up with everybody. And I wanted to kind of also show that, like, you know, priests are men. And thank God for good priests. A lot of priests have these kind of awful past as like a drug dealer or mafioso or whatever, that in a way, like Romans 8, you know, God uses for the better, right, later on. So what I'd simply say is you're exactly correct. Like your literary analysis is spot on for what I read. In the story, Father Scruggs is actually, I would say, it's funny that, you know, we have a totally different interpretation of this. And I do not believe that the author wrote something he's right. Maybe your interpretation is correct. I'm serious. Like the author creates the piece of art and then it's like out of his hands. And maybe your interpretation is better than mine. I sincerely mean that. Just because I wrote it, so what? I look at Leach as the pure-hearted guy. Leach was, as I said, right? Like there's that burn on LDS, you know, the Stock Salt Lake, the beehive bosom. The beehive is the Mormon symbol. I have Leach be this kind of goofy guy, like I was a Mormon in life, and well, you know how that was, and you know, whatever. But then I died, like in my last moments, I just became a Catholic after death. But I'm still this kind of goofy, jolly guy. I've been in purgatory for 54 years because I had to pay for a lot of sins, but it's all kind of funny. Like he's the kind of comic relief, more pure-hearted guy, I would say. Where Father Scruggs is like a total scumbag who just has like an Augustine, like St. Paul road to Damascus moment by which he becomes this very pure-hearted guy. But you hear a lot of his pure-heartedness kind of post-conversion. And granted for you, he does maintain that throughout the larger story. He doesn't fall back into sin or whatever like that. He's a very good guy. But his past, I'm at pains if this book ever gets published. The first like 15 pages are horribly explicit and like, look how bad this guy is. Like you think you're bad, he's 10 times worse. And if there's hope for him, this guy can, you know, respond to the call, the vocation, all that. There's like hope for everyone kind of thing. But sometimes I love your analysis. Again, maybe you're correct. I see it the other way, but maybe you're right, you know. This is your third question. This is your last question. No, exactly. I'm with you. No one else wants to talk. I'll talk. Go ahead.
Is there like, I thought the part about how he's sitting on the lake and he's doing all this math is really interesting, and I could think, oh, this is just Gratian being extra and all this details. but I feel like there's a deeper meaning to it. And my interpretation of that, I want to see if it's correct, is kind of like that he's trying to be like this whole converted person, but he's kind of going about it in a kind of silly, like egotistical way. He's like, oh, I'll just pray so many Hail Marys, and like, oh, the best Catholic ever. Like, is that what are you trying to say?
Yeah. So again, that's a very good question. Kind of just like what Clay said, like maybe you're right. Maybe it is just me adding some details and kind of whatever. In fact, that is correct. I'm the one providing the numerology and the counting more so than him. It's almost like he just did this nonstop. And I'm just, saying, look what the final balance sheet was. So it's me, Groshin, the author, adding the details, not so much Bubba Scruggs as a character. But yes, that's a great interpretation. I wouldn't agree with it, but it's a great interpretation because you're right. Here's this guy who just like, he can't get away from his own ego maybe, or he's just whatever. I look at it as this is the pure-hearted part of him, of like, he's a football player, and I love football players. I love all athletes. I just really love, I feel like athletes, men and women who are athletes, like really just, they're awesome. I'm very prejudiced towards them. Like, especially like student athletes, they have to balance school and they're serious and sober people and hardworking. You're just kind of like, you're just like good all around people. I've almost 99-1, like great experiences with student athletes, one bad. All the athletes I ever had in class were the best students too. I don't get where the dumb jock stereotype comes from. I don't get it. I had very few athletes who were like, yeah, brah, whatever. Like they're all really great because I have to go on this trip. I got to get my work done. So I'm saying he transfers his kind of athletic focus when he was a total clown, just chasing women, not interested in school. There's a line in it include where he shows up to his academic advisor and she's trying to like get on him. And he's like, I don't give an F about school. Like he tells her straight up. And I write in the story, like, you think you can talk and act that way when you return a punt 44 yards against Kansas State to win the Big 12 title or whatever. Like he's trapped in that world pre-conversion of like, I'm the man, it's all about me. I'm saying he maintains his athletic pursuit of excellence. And I'm just going to pray all the rosaries in the world. Like there were some saints like this, like Anthony of Egypt actually heard Matthew 19:21, the 3 principles of perfection, sell what you have, give it to the poor. He heard that sermon and went home and sold everything. You can imagine like his guardian angel would be like, wait, it doesn't mean everything. No, he's everything. Or St. Francis of Assisi, I'm going to go lay naked in the ditch. Like there's something athletic about that, like pursue excellence. Like St. Francis of Assisi, I'm going to have the greatest bench press number in my spirituality. So that was the point of that from my perspective of like, he's like, why can I not pray endless rosaries or chaplets? It says pray without ceasing. I'm so on fire for Christ now, post-conversion, thanks to whoever this Danielle figure is who didn't show up in this book I read. Well, now all that athletic energy before that was dedicated towards Texas Tech football and maybe going to the NFL is now focused on, I'm just going to pray 1 million rosaries and I'm going to dedicate every like decade to the souls in purgatory or whatever. So it's meant to show this kind of spiritual earnestness. But again, to Clay, like I'm dead serious. I mean that once the work is out of, you've heard the work now, you can tear it apart, judge it however you see it. If you're like, no, I think it's still that, why are you wrong? Just because I wrote it doesn't mean, that my interpretation is correct. I'm serious. Like, I don't think you can overdo that. Like if you're going to say like, oh, the story is about aliens, then I have to say, no, it's not about aliens. But when it's come like to certain interpretive facets about who's more pure-hearted and what the intention is, like that's your prerogative. So that'd be my answer for that. The purpose of mathematics. Look how dedicated he is now.
Do you have advice for someone entering into student comedy for the first time?
Yeah, so I was trying to remember to bring it, but I didn't have. But I'd recommend getting the John Ciardi version. Like Alan Mandelbaum did one. There's a lot of scholars who've done translations, and the reason I like John Ciardi was he was a poet, and so he maintained that nice rhyme scheme, which I find just very, very beautiful. Until this year, I was never a fan of poetry, and the Divine Comedy, just that one book really kind of, So the first thing I'd say is get the John Ciardi version because it maintains the terza rima. So it'll be kind of fun and it like skips one or the other with the rhymes versus other versions that are just as faithful, but they're not rhyming. So it kind of loses something. I'd say one, get John Ciardi, and in John Ciardi, you'll find, like, don't be intimidated by it. I read the whole thing and missed tons of it, and, fine. But in every canto, Ciardi has an explanation of who's here. Like, here are the sinners being punished for this thing, they're lustful, whatever, and a bunch of footnotes. And it's super, super cool. There's stuff when he listed in there, like about astrological signs, I would have never in a million years understood. So if you enter and like, well, I'm going to miss a bunch, that's okay. Like, or for instance, too, like, this is not to promote Hillsdale College, although perhaps it's a very good thing to promote. I don't know. How do you feel about Hillsdale College? Maybe it's the best thing to promote. I'm just saying I'm not getting paid by them. I will promote them. If they pay me, I will promote them. But Hillsdale College has a nice, like, there's some guy there who's a professor of literature or whatever. Hillsdale College is a free online hour crash course to Dante. So you might think, oh, I'll listen to that, and this guy's gonna tell me what it's about. Then I'll get to CRD, just like work through it. This summer, I live in Pullman, I think most of you know. And the greatest place in Pullman, I think, is the Rainy Park swimming pool, because it was built in 1917 and it's so grimy and old school. Like it's like 1960s, like just grime. And I read the Divine Comedy at the whole Rainy Park pool. I'll forever have those associated. Like the kids are swimming, I'm reading Divine Comedy, it's glorious times. So I'd find, like, set yourself some time to maybe read like a canto a day. There's 100 cantos, a canto a day or as much as you want. And I honestly think, I'm not being like fake nice, oh, you're so smart. Like you are. Like anyone in college is already super smart. You wouldn't be in college, you wouldn't be here. So everyone has the requisite intelligence. I think it's just a matter of maybe struggling through it. I've got the Hillsdale intro, I have the notes. Now I'm just going to go for it. I have no other advice. I don't know. You know, maybe you understand poetry better than anyone in this room, and so you'll get it right away. Maybe you struggle through it. I don't know. But I will say that something never to read is Ezra Pound's cantos. But I say that with, like, I mean, I absolutely fell in love with this, but it's the most complex book I've ever read. Dante was great, but it's Ezra Pound. He has like 30 pages in a row of just Chinese characters with no translation and stuff. It was like a postmodern Dante. And it was, I obviously, as you can tell probably from my laughing, I absolutely loved it. I love Ezra Pound. That one is brutal. That one I have no advice for you. Like, good luck, buddy. Like, there's 30 pages of Chinese characters. I don't know. Can you read Chinese? If not, you know, sorry. But Dante, I think, is pretty straightforward. I just get it and go for it. And I will actually, I'm not even kidding. I thought about this year. We're doing Catholicism and disasters for our class in the fall. I could do a Dante year, like next spring, like 2024 would be like, for our Vandal Catholic class, you know, Dante all through the spring and fall if people want that. But let me know, like, is that something that sounds interesting? Like, no, that's boring, then I wouldn't do it. But if there's a bunch of people like, I would love to do Dante together, or do, like, you know, a canto a week together and talk about it, I would love that. So yeah.
Are we supposed to assume that Danielle was an actual person? Or are we supposed to kind of assume that it was like a spiritual nudge?
Totally. You're a genius. I love your analysis. Best comment of the night. Best, like, insightful. In the story, I haven't written her in yet. I think I make her like a dead person ghost from heaven, kind of like a Beatrice figure. In the Divine Comedy, Beatrice is Dante's guide through Paradiso until Saint Bernard in the final kind of upper echelons of heaven. And Beatrice, him and Dante, in the troubadour tradition, there was no physical relationship. She was the ideal woman, as, like, in a sense of purity, almost like a lesser version of Our Lady, this kind of perfect, pure woman. That's how I envision Danielle in the story. Disgusting scumbag Bubba, before his conversion, is like lusting after her, and that's all he thinks. Oh, I just can't wait to ask this girl out, and like, it's gonna be great. Like, I'm so great with women. Like, he goes into that, and the joke's on him because she's dead. I think I'm gonna she's a ghost. Like, she's from heaven. I think I'm gonna have something included where Leach later on to troll him, because I maintain Mike Leach is to Clay's early point. I maintain Leach is the goofy kind of comic relief the whole time out, where Leach is gonna show him like something, and it's like, you know, her dates are like 1640 to 1690. She's been dead for 400 years and in heaven the whole time. And like, she was sent from God because God, I don't know if you got the part, I said it twice, but, you know, Bubba becomes Pope eventually. The story actually ends with the Bishop of Amarillo dying and Bubba coming back. He's gonna be named the next bishop. I think I'm gonna end the story that then after he wakes up and he walks in all confident, like, hey, here we go. It wasn't a dream, whatever. But so, yeah, exactly. It's so insightful. Daniel, I'll tell you two kind of giveaways. Danielle is dead and a saint, and Lighter, the guy who dies, the bad violence guy, his coach who died at the prostitute's cocaine. At one point in the story, I've actually already written this in the real book. What's his name? Bubba's like, where's Lighter? He loved him. He just loved him like an older brother. And Leach is like, he's not here. And so Bubba is crestfallen. He went to hell. And at the end, Leach reveals as Leach goes to heaven, he's been in heaven the whole time. Lighter died ministering to prostitutes. Like, he was executed, killed by some drug lord as he was trying to save these people. So the world judges, here's this guy who just got arrested 6 times in NFL. What a scumbag. He dies in a hotel with prostitutes. He's just such an awful, you know, kind of orgy person, whatever. No, he was literally, you know, doing Christ's work, going to the periphery. So he's been in heaven the whole time. So there is a lot of kind of like twists, which that's nothing, like, whatever. Take a number in line. Like, authors always do that. But I really, really respect your, like, guess on that. Yeah, Danielle is not there because she's not there. Like, she's dead. She's in heaven. God sent her because this is the future Pope, and he's had to commence this thing in God's providence. as always, Aaron, I'll come to you. Yeah, I'll come to you next. I'm not even kidding. Like, you can stop taking questions after Aaron or 20 more minutes. I'm not even kidding. Like, as long as you want, I'm happy to do it. So please, like, if there's no more questions after Aaron, we can be done. That's great. But if you want to ask questions, don't feel shy. Like, oh, he's tired, or I'm not. Like, I love this. So as much as you want. So Danielle, exactly. That's a great point. Exactly. Like, the only real person in the story I think so far is Mike Leach. Like, Father Bubba is invented. They're all invented. She's invented. No, she's not a real person, but she will be not kind of a ghost or just an apparition. She'll actually be a woman who I'll make it probably fun to the story. Like, she lived in Persia in the 600s or something. And like, the whole point of Leach dying and becoming Catholic post-mortem is like, there's this awesome Southern priest. I made a joke about this in a previous Hippo. We had a priest, Father Chase Hilgenbrink. I don't know if anyone who's here last year might remember him from the retreat. He's so awesome. I feel so blessed. These two awesome priests, Father Chase, both of them. And Hilgenbrink came last year to give a retreat for us. And he told this hilarious story about this priest who was a seminary leader, whatever, at Mount St. Mary's in seminary. And he's from Georgia. And he's like super hick in a super Southern drawl. And people are always asking, like, aren't you like upset, like working in Bible Belt? All these Protestants, they don't want to convert. And he said in like a super drawl, he's like, well, they go and be Catholic in heaven. And it's exactly the point of the story. Like, Danielle might have been a Zoroastrian Persian person. She's dead. She's Catholic. Leach, just okay, I believe in Jesus. And actually, I don't know what Mike Leach's personal religious beliefs were or not. I know he was raised Mormon. I don't know how devout he was or not. But like, he just calls out to Christ when you're gonna be Catholic now. And so everyone in heaven comes back from that same perspective in a certain sense. Yeah. Grace, I swear you can ask 40 questions. You can ask many questions as you want.
Would you be open to adding like other media forms to the piece of work, like maybe illustrations or like cool like
Yeah, that is a really good question. That's a really good question. Totally. There actually is a Polish priest who's a professional rapper. And what's amazing is I am Polish. My mom's Polish. So I'm proud to be Polish. There's so much Polish like pride that's so cringe, you know, and like someone's like, aren't you so proud of JP2? Like, proud of what? Like I love JP2, but like, what, you want me to like pull out my Polish flag, you know, whatever. This is not this guy's Polish, he's great, whatever. Because there's a lot of Polish cringe. But this guy, I watched his rap videos, it's actually really good. Like, he's actually a really good rapper. And I remember sending it to my dad. My dad is my hero. My dad is my father / older brother. I love this guy. Like, I love him. Like, I love my father in every, like, the beginning of wisdom is the fear of the Lord, 4th commandment. Like, my dad is not my bro, whatever. Like, he's my dad, full 4th commandment. What I'm saying is I love him so much, especially as, you know, 35-year-old guy now, whatever. And my dad has no tolerance for kind of stuff like this, like new evangelization rap. And I sent him a video. I'm like, oh, you got to check out this guy. He's a priest and rapper. And he's like, priest and rapper, no. but I say against, okay, yeah. Like, if there is a guy, and I know you're being sarcastic and it's very funny, but like, if someone wanted to rap this, that'd be awesome.
I'm not really being sarcastic.
Then fine. Then yeah, Grace. Yeah. So Grace and I were having a conversation before this whole got started. And I said, just like in the whole like vision of intellect in general, it's like, it's already so awesome. Thank God. Thanks to you guys, sincerely, with these hippos and the AMAs and the stuff with Father Chase, which is the greatest stuff, the spirit in life, the classes. But Grace and I were talking like verbatim of our conversation. There used to be an amazing woman here who a lot of you probably know, Amy McNally. Amy McNally is a legit professional actress. I saw her on stage. She's freaking unbelievable. I'm dead serious. I saw her play Nellie Forbush in South Pacific, and I was like, I was done. I was like, I can't believe it. I could not believe it was her. And so Amy McNally, when she was here, and her and I were colleagues, we were going to do a sketch show here called Palouse Phenomenology, where myself, her, and Father Chase would have like a traditional boring podcast like Matt Fradd does, like super boring, just two people in a room talking. But the reason ours would be cool would be our podcast would be like, it's on a topic X, whatever, right? Like topic, like a relativism in the church. But every commercial break would us be acting out stuff, you know, like just SNL skits, and we have an invited guest. And so along these lines, it's a very roundabout answer to your question. Like I'm always up for innovative stuff. You know, like if the book got published and someone wanted to wrap a book on tape version, I'm 100% on board. If the sketch show ever takes off and you guys are like, we'd love to do that. We'd love to be a part of this like SNL kind of thing and like make a Catholic media that's not just the standard normal stuff, but actually will like be cool. I'm always on board. So Grace, if you're being serious, like I'm always on board, but you have to send me a plan. Like, what would this be like? Yes, but I'm in. Yeah.
We're writing a movie.
For writing a movie? I would do a movie. I'd totally do a movie. Sylvester Stallone had the best idea ever. He wrote Rocky, and then they bought the script, and he said, "You guys only can have it if I play Rocky." I'm serious. That's how his career began. So I would do that. We make a movie, but we have to all be in it. Like it's great. Acting is not hard. Come on. Like anyone can act. Like we'll just keep doing takes. Take 90 till it's good. You know? Anyone else? Any other questions? Okay, well, if not, before everything, just Nicole has some announcements. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Nicole. I'll just say next week, I'm sure you're gonna say it's Dr. Scott French, and then I think Spirit and Life in 2 weeks, but the next installment of this, I'll just put on Flock Note. It'll be October sometime. So thank you all for coming out. It's super appreciated.